Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cozy Corner Chronicles. My name is Julia,
And I'm Liz.
and we are back with another Judge a Book by its cover for a very highly anticipated book on everyone's reading list. What is it today, Liz?
A Little Life. This is by Hanya Yanagihara. I didn't want to butcher her last name.
Mood.
I know we said that we were going to start this in March, but I feel like it's close enough to March to where we can start it. So we've been really excited to read this book, obviously, BookTok book. And I don't know. I mean, from the first glances of the cover, what do you think, Julia?
Yeah, I feel like the cover doesn't really give away much. Like, I think we had discussed the cover is not animated compared to the other books that we've read, which I know we
Mm-hmm.
hate to use that word, but this is a real person on a cover. They look
Mm-hmm.
distressed. It's in black and white. But had I not looked at TikTok, I don't think I would have guessed that it was a sad book, honestly.
Yeah, and like to be honest, if I just saw this like walking in Target, which I mean I have multiple times, I wouldn't have like it wouldn't draw me to like what I feel like I know this book might be about, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. And honestly speaking, I don't know if I walked in Target, I don't know if I would have picked it up on my own either though, because
Mm-hmm.
it gives away nothing. And honestly, I've
Yeah.
never even read the back of the book. Like I genuinely don't know what this book is about at
Mm-hmm.
all, except for what TikTok tells me, which is that it's sad.
Right. So, going to the back of the book, it says A Little Life follows four college classmates, broke, adrift, and buoyed only by their friendship and ambition as they move to New York in search of fame and fortune. While their relationships, which are tinged by addiction, success, and pride, deepen over the decades, the men are held together by their devotion to brilliant, enigmatic Jude, a man scarred by an unspeakable childhood trauma, a hymn to brotherly bonds, and a masterful depiction of love in the 21st century. Hanya Yanagihara's stunning novel is about the families we are born into and those that we make for ourselves.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like just following the lives of four people. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to read.
And I really like that this is honestly a little bit different for us because I think every book that we've read has been like women based. Like it's like surrounded by a woman in a
Right.
sense.
Right. This book seems like it's only like main characters from what we know, of
Mm-hmm.
course. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. We have been reading books that are very women based. So I
Right.
think that'll be interesting. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about like what you found out about the book?
Yeah, so I checked out some of the reviews, and on Goodreads, it got a 4.34 out of 591,000 ratings. And then on Amazon, it had a 4.5 star rating with 69,000 ratings.
That's
So,
a lot of ratings.
yeah, it's a lot of ratings and pretty good ratings. And
Hmm.
then um, the book itself, I believe, is 100 and no, sorry, 818 pages.
I
Maybe
feel like
I'm
that's
lying.
probably our longest book that we've read.
814.
Yeah, that's definitely the longest so far that we've read.
Right. And the book itself is divided into seven parts, so that should be super interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, and this book actually got like a lot of awards and accolades, which a lot of them she was shortlisted for. But if you want to go through those, Julia.
Yeah, so it seems like for her awards, she won in 2015. Well, she won 2015 three awards. The Man Booker Prize, yeah, she was
Mm-hmm.
shortlisted for that. She also won the National Book Award for Fiction, which she was a finalist for. And then she
Mm-hmm.
won. Okay, let me take this back. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So she was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. She was a
Mm-hmm.
finalist for the National Book Award for Fiction, and then she actually won Kirkus Prize in Fiction. That was all in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2016, she was shortlisted for two awards. It was the Andrew Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction and Women's Prize for Fiction. And then
Mm-hmm.
2017, she was also shortlisted for International Dublin Literary Award. So
Yeah.
definitely a lot of different awards. And actually, I've never heard of a lot of these awards. So it's pretty cool that like she won something international.
Definitely, I agree. I after researching it just a little bit cuz I was even looking on the book itself cuz on the book itself it only has like the finalists and then
Right.
finalists. It doesn't say like she won any award for it. You actually have to like look it up.
Right. Interesting.
Mhm.
Well,
And
seems cool.
then I also found some of the trigger warnings for the book.
Hmm.
It has SA, child SA, verbal abuse, psychological manipulation and gaslighting, kidnapping and imprisonment, many modes of self harm, a violent accident, a few moments of prejudice against the disabled, drug use, addiction, grief, and loss of loved ones.
So we're back to our very heavy books, I see.
Yeah, and again, like just going back to looking at the cover, I don't think I would have expected all of that just
Yeah,
by looking at it.
I agree. I feel like I can kind of, just based off the trigger warnings, I can see why people will say it's very sad. And I'm
Hmm.
interested to see how amazing of an author she is to be able to write something to where all of Book Talk is in tears reading this book.
Right, I totally agree with you. Speaking of author, would you like us to tell us a little bit more about her?
Yes. So after college, I'm also going to butcher the name. So I apologize in advance about that. Yanagihara moved to New York and worked for several years as a publicist. She wrote and was an editor for Condé Nast Traveler, which I'm assuming is probably international, honestly. Her
Hmm.
first novel is actually The People in the Trees, which is partly based on the real life case of the virologist Daniel Carlton. I'm not even going to try to guess that last name, and was
Oh my
praised for one of the
gosh.
best novels of 2013.
So, about that book,
Yeah.
funny that you mentioned that. I was kind of like skimming through all of that. That book actually took her 18 years to write.
It took her
And she
18
was
years?
and she was going on and off, like on and off writing that, and that's not even her bestseller. The book A Little Life that we're going to read right now was her bestseller, and it only took her 18 months to write that book.
That's crazy. I feel like
Hmm.
and a virologist, that's actually really cool. I think I might actually pick up that book too because I'm curious. I'm curious
Yeah,
now.
and I'm wondering what the case is about too, so
Right? Interesting.
might
Interesting.
have to
She
Google
seems like
that
she's a
one.
very versatile writer for sure.
Hmm.
So, of course, like you said, then in 2015 is when this book was actually published. And it, of course, received a lot of critical acclaim and then was shortlisted for a bunch of prizes. And, of
Hmm.
course, won one. And then A Little Life defied the expectations of its editor and the author herself because she actually thought it wouldn't sell well, just like you said.
Hmm.
So, whenever she was describing writing the book, she described it as glorious as surfing. It felt like being carried aloft on something I couldn't conjure, but was lucky enough to have caught, if for just a moment. So, I can definitely tell she, even just that quote itself that she just spoke, it's very well written. Like the words are
Right,
very intentional.
right.
And she continues to say, at its worst, I felt like I was somehow losing my ownership over the book. It felt oddly like being one of those people who adopt a tiger or lion when the cat's a baby and cuddly and manageable, and then watch in the dismay and awe when it turns on them as an adult.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and that was one thing that I saw too. There was like a lot of mixed reviews about this story, and I could see, like, after reading that portion of her quote or whatever, like what they mean, because they said in the beginning the book is like literally beautiful, like written very elegantly. It's easy to follow, like just very meaningful, intentional. And then they say like, there's like this flip in the book where just everything kind of just like, I don't know how to explain,
Yeah,
but
like it kind of turns upside down, which I think that means her point got across, though, because life is never going to be super stable. I mean, for
mm-hmm.
those who are lucky, life is very stable.
Yeah,
But I mean, I guess she did her job well then, if that's how people felt. I'm sure the
right,
180 was probably very intentional.
right. And then I feel like some people maybe just didn't understand that portion of
Mhm.
what she was trying to convey, because they're like, I hated it towards the end and da 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 da. And I'm like, I feel like sometimes people go into reading books blindly, which don't get me wrong, I do too. Like
Yeah,
sometimes, like, the only reason we ever do research on the books is because we're doing the podcast or whatever.
right.
But like when I go into a book blind, like I do my research afterwards to see if maybe I missed the point, or,
Yes.
so.
Yes, and I feel like I definitely feel like I've done that too because like I said, if I will blindly jump into so many books and then if
Mhm.
I find out that they're like not with the person I want them to be if it's a romance, like I stop reading the book. So I'm definitely guilty of that. But
Yeah.
more things about the book and her as well is in 2015 she finally left Condé Nast, which is what she was the editor for.
Mhm.
And she actually became an editor at the New York Times style magazine instead. So she said
Mm.
that after she published her best selling sophomore novel, people in the publishing industry were baffled by her decision to take the job at the New York Times style magazine.
I was just
And
about to say that.
right, which is crazy because, yeah, but honestly, being editor in chief, I feel like that's also a big deal, no?
Yeah, definitely. And especially because she was the deputy editor. But it's still interesting to me how like writers never really follow like a specific path because like she can go and like drop her first novel that took her 18 years to write. She was so
Right.
proud and so happy for that novel, but it didn't sell as best as her next novel. And then she just stops writing and then decides to be an editor.
Right. That's true. I can see the world. And plus, I mean, all of it's kind of related to writing anyway, because then
Mm-hmm.
her third novel is called To Paradise, which was published in January 11th of 2022. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously there was a what 7 year gap between
Mm-hmm.
when she released A Little Life and now To Paradise. So
Right.
her writing is definitely based off the timeline. It's probably very
Mm-hmm.
intentional in how she writes.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
interesting. Do you want to tell us about like popular highlights or stuff that you saw people highlighting all the time in the book?
Oh yeah, definitely. So there was one. It was highlighted by 8,600. Oop, I just lost it. And 59 Kindle readers. It said he experienced the single pleasure of watching people he loved fall in love with other people he loved.
Hmm.
That's cute.
Like, is
Like,
that
that's
heartbreaking?
cute. Right. And another one was highlighted by 6,356 Kindle readers. It says, when did pursuing your ambitions cross the line from brave into foolhardy? How did you know when to stop?
This book feels like it probably hits like how people feel going through life. So I can
Yeah.
probably see why people are very emotional about it.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one was highlighted by 5,241 Kindle readers, and it says, it is morals that help us make the laws, but morals do not help us apply them.
That's an interesting quote.
It's
Okay.
kind of deep. It's kind of
Kind
deep.
of deep, kind of very.
Yeah.
And I think you said
Um,
that this is also a movie, right?
okay, there was a movie that came out last year,
I was so shocked. I
and
didn't know.
I can't even lie, I'm not extremely familiar with the cast.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, maybe after this book, after we read it and stuff, maybe we will be likely to watch it. I didn't even know that this movie came out.
I feel like it definitely wasn't advertised because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of judgments about when books are made to movies. So I definitely felt
Hmm.
like if this was a movie that was bad, people would have had an uproar on TikTok. So I'm
Yeah,
actually okay.
definitely. I
I'm
agree
interested
with
now.
that. Yeah, I'm super intrigued. like I said, I feel like this book has been a long time coming for us at
Mhm.
least. Even if we were not to do this podcast, we are both going to read the book at some point.
Right.
Um, but I'm really excited to read it. And this time, I know we said that with the fake out, we were going to do chapter chats and be, reading 5 chapters here and there. But we definitely end up finishing the whole book. So that's not okay. But this one, I think we're going to do 10 chapters, we said.
Yes.
So if you want to follow along and read with us, please be sure to pick up the book, however you're going to read it, physical copy, ebook, whatever you're going to do, and read 10 chapters at a time with us.
Yes, and we promise we will actually stick to 10 chapters because this read is probably not going to be as easy of a read as the fake out. So we will actually
Yeah.
stick to that. And we hope you guys will
Hmm.
tune in for every episode because we are so excited to tell you everything that we will love about this book.
Hmm.
Alrighty, well,
Alrighty.
we'll speak to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.